You have started over so many times that starting over has become the plan. New diet, new routine, new goal, new version of yourself. Every few months, sometimes every few weeks, the reset, the clean slate, the fresh start, this time will be different, and every single time you restart, you feel something that you have been mistaking for motivation. That feeling is not motivation. That feeling is relief. Relief that you don't have to finish. Relief that the clock resets. Relief that whatever you were building, whatever was getting real, and therefore getting dangerous, is safely dismantled, and you get to begin again from the one place that has always felt safe, the beginning. I know you think you have a discipline problem. I know you think you have a consistency problem. I know you have told yourself the story about laziness and bad timing and not being ready yet. None of that is true. You have a finishing problem, and finishing terrifies you for a reason so precise and so hidden that you have spent years building an entire personality around never having to confront it. This video is going to make that reason visible, and once you see it, you cannot restart your way out of it. The restart is not failure. Here is the first thing you need to understand. The restart is not a failure of discipline. It is a success of self-protection. Your psyche is not broken. It is functioning exactly as designed. It identified a threat, the threat of finishing, and it neutralized that threat with the most elegant tool available, the fresh start. Think about what happens in the beginning of anything. A new diet, a new project, a new relationship, a new version of yourself. The beginning is pure potential. Nothing has been tested, nothing has been judged, nothing has failed, yet you are everything you could be, and nothing you might not be. The beginning is the only place where the gap between who you are and who you want to be does not exist. And the middle, the grinding, unglamorous, uncertain middle, where real things get built, that is where the gap becomes visible, where the distance between your potential and your reality starts to show, where other people can see what you are actually made of. And the end, the finish line, the completed thing, the finished version of yourself, that is the most terrifying place of all, because a finished thing can be judged. Potential cannot be judged. Potential is infinite and safe and protected by its own incompleteness. But a finished thing, a finished body, a finished business, a finished relationship, a finished version of yourself, that thing is real. And real things can fail. Real things can be found wanting. Real things can confirm the fear you have been running from since before you knew you were running. The fear that when everything is stripped away, when all the potential is spent, and all the excuses are gone, and the finished thing is standing there to be evaluated, it will not be enough. You will not be enough. The restart saves you from ever finding out the architecture of the loop. Let me show you exactly how the loop runs. It begins with genuine intention. You mean it. This time, the motivation is real. The plan is solid. The commitment feels different from all the previous times. This is not self-deception. In the beginning, the intention is completely sincere. Then comes the early progress, the first 2 weeks, the first month. Results appear. Momentum builds. You feel the version of yourself you always knew was possible beginning to emerge. This part feels extraordinary, and then something subtle happens. The thing starts becoming real. Real means other people notice. Real means the stakes increase. Real means you are no longer safely anonymous in your potential. This is the moment. The loop activates. not with a dramatic collapse, not with obvious self-sabotage, with something far more sophisticated. A reason. The reason is always legitimate, always reasonable, always completely believable. Because your psyche is not going to give you an obviously bad excuse. It is going to give you the best excuse available. Work got busy. The approach wasn't right. The timing was off. I need to research more before I continue. I'll restart properly. On Monday. Monday arrives. The restart feels clean and energized. The motivation is genuine. Again, because it always is in the beginning. This is not a cycle of weakness. It is a cycle of psychological precision. Your psyche has learned through years of repetition exactly how close to the finish line it can allow you to get before it needs to intervene. And with every loop, that threshold gets closer to the beginning. The man who used to restart at 6 months now restarts at 6 weeks. The man who used to restart at 6 weeks now restarts at 6 days, until eventually the restart happens before anything real has even been risked. Until eventually the beginning is all that exists. What is actually being avoided? So what exactly is being avoided? Not failure. Failure is survivable. Failure can be reframed, explained, learned from. Failure still leaves the potential intact. What is being avoided is verdict. The finished thing delivers a verdict. That potential never can. It answers definitively, publicly, permanently the question you have been asking in the dark since the beginning. Is what I have actually enough? The body you finish building answers it. The business you finish building answers it. The relationship you actually commit to answers it. And the restart is the mechanism that ensures the question never gets answered. Because as long as you are in the process, as long as you are becoming rather than being, the verdict is postponed. And postponed feels like hope. Finished means finding out. This connects directly as to what we explored in the last video on this channel. The self-improvement loop is the restart loop. The man who is always improving is always in the process and never at the verdict, always becoming and never being. Jung called this inflation, the psyche's tendency to identify with the ideal self rather than the actual self. The inflation is maintained by keeping the actual self permanently unfinished. An unfinished self cannot be measured against the ideal. An unfinished self is still theoretically everything. A finished self is only what it is, and what it is might not match what you need it to be. That terror, the terror of the mismatch between what you hoped you were and what you actually are, is what every restart is protecting you from. What finishing actually requires. I am not going to tell you to be more disciplined. I am not going to tell you to find better accountability, or build better systems, or fix your environment. Because the problem is not the system. You have built excellent systems. You have followed them perfectly, right up until the moment they started to matter. The problem is what finishing means to you. As long as finishing means verdict, as long as completing something real means submitting yourself to a judgment, you are not sure you can survive. The loop will continue. No system can override a survival mechanism. No habit can outlast a fundamental fear. What has to change is the relationship between your identity and your output. Right now, unconsciously, you have fused them. What you produce is what you are. A finished body is a finished verdict on your worth. A finished business is a finished verdict on your intelligence. A finished relationship is a finished verdict on your lovability. This is the fusion that makes finishing existentially threatening. And this is the fusion that has to be broken. The man who can finish is the man who has separated what he produces from what he is. His work can fail without him failing. His body can be imperfect without him being insufficient. His relationship can end without his worth ending with it. He finishes things not because he is certain of the outcome. He finishes them because he is certain of himself, regardless of the outcome. That certainty is not confidence in the conventional sense. It is the knowledge that whatever the finished thing reveals, it does not change the fundamental fact of who he is. Jung called this the individuated self, the self that exists, independent of its productions, its performances, its outcomes, the self that can be judged without being destroyed by the judgment. That self does not fear finishing. That self is curious about finishing because the verdict, whatever it is just information, not identity. The final truth. Here is what I want you to understand. The next time you feel the pull to restart, the clean slate, the fresh beginning, the this time will be different, that pull is not ambition. It is fear, wearing ambition's clothing. And the most important thing you can do in that moment is not restart. It is to stay in the uncomfortable middle, where things are real and imperfect and visible. To stay when the reason to quit is legitimate, and the timing feels wrong, and the approach seems like it needs rethinking. To stay because the discomfort of the middle is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is finally real. The beginning always feels like hope. The middle always feels like doubt. The end always feels like exposure. And exposure, genuine, complete, undeniable exposure, is the only thing that can answer the question you have been running from. Not with the answer you feared, but with the only answer that can actually set you free, that you survived it, that the verdict came and you are still here, that the finished thing was judged and you did not disappear, that what you actually are when everything is stripped away and the potential is spent and the restart is no longer available was enough. It was always enough. You just never stayed long enough to find out. The next video goes into the wound that started the loop, not what keeps it running, what installed it. In the first place, you know where to find it.